everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I am back with another video, and this time we're going to be talking about an apex. So specifically, what is an apex and where should you place the apex? I know I get that question asked a lot, so I wanted to do a video specifically on that. So I'm gonna be, of course, applying the acrylic to show you guys exactly what I'm gonna be doing. Hopefully, you know, I'm able to help out a lot of people that have been asking that question for a long time now. But as you can see, I already have my nail tips on. I just recorded a video on how to shape your nails, so be sure to go check it out, and I'll be sure to leave the link down below for you guys. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. So your apex is gonna be right in the middle of the nail, and that's just where your nail gets its strength from. So if you were to hit your nail on something, if your nail is super thin, most likely it's just gonna break off really easily. But if you have your apex, which means that the acrylic in this area is thicker, then when you hit it, you know, it's gonna have something to hold on to. Now, a good way to know exactly where you need to put your apex at, if you kind of hold down on your tip just a little bit, you see where that white kind of pops up. So if you were to hit your nail, that's where a lot of the product needs to be at, so your nail doesn't snap off or, you know, break off or whatever. So as you can see, anytime you hold down on each nail, the stress area is like right around this area, and that's correct. You know, whenever I place my acrylic, this area right here always has to be thicker. So usually the acrylic around the cuticle area will be, you know, slightly thinner, and then you'll have an arch right here where it'll be thicker and then thinner at the tip. Usually, I know people ask me also, like, how thick should your tip be? And usually the average should be like the thickness of a credit card. I know a lot of people say that. Also, you know, it also just depends on your clients. I have some clients that just like their nails thicker. There's clients that don't like their nails too thick. So it just depends on your client as well. Alrighty, so your apex is at the highest point of your nail. It's located at the weakest point, and it's created to give the nail balance and strength. So again, if you hold down on your tip, as you can see, that's gonna be your weakest spot on your nail. So that's where your apex should be at. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started. I'm gonna be using my Mia Secret acrylic system in the color pink. As always, I'm using my alpha brush in a number 10. And I'm just gonna go ahead and start placing the product. And as you can see, my nail tips, they already have like that natural arch to it. So again, your you know, thickest part should be right here, and then my tips are already kind of thick. You know, they're not flimsy like other tips are, so I already don't have to apply a lot of products like you have to on other tips. So that's a big plus. So I always, whenever I'm applying my acrylic, I always start right in the middle where the natural nail and the tip meet. So right there, as you can see, I pat it down, and then very gently brushing it down towards the tip. I want most of that product to stay right there in the middle, because that's really when I start building my apex, by leaving a lot of that product right there so it's not too thin. And again, we're not having to apply too much product at the tip because they already have, you know, a nice thickness. So we just want to blend it down towards the middle, and then I'm going to show you here in a second like a side view. So as you can see from the side, you're already able to tell what's the thickest part of the nail. So now I'm gonna go in and place another bead closer to the tip. So like right there, same thing, just patting it down, and then gently brushing it down towards the tip. And then whenever I'm brushing it down, I'm literally just using the very tip of my brush to do so. You don't wanna brush down too hard, because then you will be brushing that product off your nail. And then wiping the sides off really nicely. And make sure that you just brush it out and look at your nail from different angles. That way you know if maybe you have a little bump or lump, and you can brush that out before the acrylic dries. So that's how thick, I don't know if you guys can tell, that's how thick my tip is right now. So next we're gonna apply the product closer to the back. So whenever I do this one, grab my bead, place it closer to the cuticle area, pat it down and pushing it up towards the cuticle as close as I can. and then I brush it down. Again, as you can see, I'm using the very tip of my brush because I just want to blend that product in. I don't really want to brush it all the way down towards the tip, just blending it in with what's already there. And then of course, cleaning around my cuticle area with the very tip to make sure that I don't have any product on the skin. Just like that. And with me doing this 4-bar method, again, I start at the tip. So by the time I place my product at the back, it's like, you know, I already have a nice thickness at the tip, so I don't have to focus on that area. And I'll show you right here, you see how there's still a dip right there, which that's where our apex is going to be. So our 4th bead, we place right in that area. So same thing, grabbing my bead, placing it right there, patting it down. And then again, same thing, just brushing really, really gently because we want that product to stay right here at, you know, like the apex area. We just want to blend it in with the rest. Cleaning around the cuticle area. Okay. Just like that. So I know you guys can see how this part of the nail is thicker and then it gets thinner at the tip. So it's like thin, thick, and then thinner. But again, you want this area right here to be thicker because that's your apex. That's where your nail is going to get its strength from. So if you hit it on something, it's not going to break off. Now I'll show you an example of what your nail should not look like. And I know a lot of the shops, you know, do them like this, and that's why a lot of people have to go back to their nail shop to get their nail fixed because it broke off. And honestly, in my opinion, I feel like in a way they kind of do it on purpose. So you keep coming back, you know, for repair or a fill or even a new set. But if you have a nice apex, I promise you guys, your nails are not going to break off. So again, I'm going to show you an example of what your nails should not look like and what a weak apex looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and just place my product on the nail. Not doing any sort of method, just trying to show you an example. Because trust me, again, I see this a lot on people's nails. Alrighty, so with this nail, I wanted to show you what your nail should not look like. As you can see, once we turn it over to the side, well, once we look at it from right here, it looks fine. But once we turn it over to the side, as you can see, that area right there is super thin. So if I was to hit my nail on something, I know for a fact that it's going to break off because it's so thin back here. We have some thickness like right here in the middle, but again, that's not the stress area. That's not the weakest point. So if I hit it, it's really, I mean, I can already feel it. Like it's so weak right there, y'all. And I know you guys can feel it. With this one, I definitely feel, I don't know if you guys can tell, but whenever I press down, you guys see how it kind of turns white right there. That's where, you know, like again, if you hit it, that's where your nail is going to get that strength from to not break off. And this one right here, since it's not a lot of product right there, it's just gonna snap right off. So I don't know if you guys can tell, but again, that is definitely a big no. It's so thin right there, so it would just snap off. So same thing, I'm gonna go ahead and show you. I'm gonna try, hold on. Alrighty, so for this next one, I'm going to be doing the same thing. So again, this is what it should look like. This is what it should not look like. As you can see, it's super thin right there, and then it gets thicker right there. So that's what you don't want it to look like, because if it does look like that, it's going to break off super easily. So this one, we're going to do it the correct way. So I just want to give you guys a different view. Hopefully this one helps a lot better. So same thing, I'm doing the 4-bar method like I always do on my clients. So we dip our brush, get our bead, nice sized bead, place it right in the middle. And I want you guys to see how gentle I am whenever I pat my product down. So pat it down, moving it closer to the tip and then brushing it down. But look at how I brush it down, literally just using the very tip of my brush. And it's like it's more of like a feathering motion, like we're literally just going in there really gently with the very tip of my brush. And then whenever I like you know, mess with the acrylic on the side, I'm using the belly of the brush. But for the acrylic, you know, at the top, I use the very tip. So now that we have that product right there, as you can see, the tip is thin. So now we're gonna go in and place the next bead closer to the tip to build our thickness there. Because sometimes, even if your nails do not break back here, like sometimes if you have a nice apex, you know, your nails might not break all the way at the back. But if your tip is too thin, most likely your tip will break off, especially when you are doing stiletto nails. The tips tend to break off really easily if you don't have enough product at the tip. So then for my tip, I usually hold my tip like this when I'm doing it on myself, of course, and just pat my tip. Yeah, my brush keep like spreading out. I don't know why it's doing that. Okay. Alrighty, so now that we have the bead at the tip, as you can see, we still have to go in and even it out. So before I do that, I'm gonna go ahead. Usually, you know, by the time I applied the third and fourth bead, you know, it evens out. So I'm gonna go ahead and apply the bead closer to the cuticle area. So same thing, grab our bead, place it closer to the cuticle area, pat it down. And again, as you can see, you want to be really gentle, because if you're patting down too hard, I honestly feel like that dries out your bead a lot faster, and that's what causes it to be really lumpy. So then I flip my finger over, hopefully you guys can see, and then brushing it down towards the tip. Just like that. And then again, as you can see, we do have a dip in there. And that's why I say you always want to make sure that you look at your nail from different angles. Because when I'm looking at it like this, you know, it looks fine to me. But once we turn it over, that's where I can see the dip. So I'm going to go in and I'm just going to, before I finish up my apex, I'm going to go ahead and place a bead right there. And this is just going to even out the entire nail to make sure that it's all the same level, or whatever you want to call it. Alrighty, so once we have it evened out, now I'm going to go in, and as you can see, we already kind of have a nice apex, but it's still a little bit thinner right there. So I'm going to go in and I'm just going to do a smaller bead than I usually would for my apex, because again, that third bead that I placed, you know, was kind of good enough. So same thing, just placing my bead down and gently brushing it down towards the tip. So just like that, as you can see, again, we have a nice apex, and then I don't know if you guys can tell, but that's our thickness at the tip. So it's about the size of a credit card, not too thin or thick. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the same thing on the other two nails. I'm gonna switch the camera over again, just because I don't know if you guys can really see from this angle. So I'm gonna switch it over, but I just wanted you guys to be able to see the side of the nail. As you can see, it has that arch to it. It's not just flat like this one right here. So again, you want your nails to look like this. And again, it's all about the way that you pull the acrylic down. I do it with the very tip, because if you do it with the entire brush, you're going to be brushing all of that product towards your tip, and then the tip is going to be super thick, and then back here is going to be really thin. So again, placing it down, and with the very tip, just brushing it down, because you want the product to stay right here. You just want to blend in that with the rest of the nail. So again, same thing for the other two fingers. Hopefully you guys getting a better understanding of, you know, what an apex is and what or where it should be placed. So same thing. Let's see. Placing the first bead right in the middle, patting it down, and brushing it down towards the tip. And then as you can see, I also wipe the sides of the nail. That way it doesn't take away from our shape. Or you just don't want it to run over to the sides. So brushing it down. Then we're going to go in and place the second bead right at the tip. Same thing, patting it down and brushing it down towards the tip. Alrighty, and I don't know if you guys can tell, but as you can see, even after I place that second bead, the tip is still really thin. So if I was to leave it like this, most likely my tip would break off super easily. So that's why I say, you know, you can do the 4-ball method, but if you need to add a little bit more acrylic here and there, that's completely fine. But that's why you have to look at your nail from different angles, so you know exactly where you need to apply your acrylic. So let's see. That's a little bit better. And then once we apply the rest of the acrylic, it should give it a little bit of some more thickness. So now I'm going to place, this what it looks like from the side now. So now I'm going to go ahead and place the bead closer to the cuticle area. So same thing, placing it down, patting it down, and then with the very tip, just brushing it down to blend it in. Cleaning up around the cuticle area with the very tip of your brush. Going all the way around. All right, so now we're gonna go in with the 4th bead, which is going to create the apex. So placing it right in the middle, closer to the cuticle area, and then really gently just blending it down towards the tip. This is what this nail looks like. Again, we have a nice apex, and even with this one, you can just definitely tell how thin it is back here by just looking at it like this. You can tell that it's a lot of product missing in that area, and of course I'm gonna go back and fix it, but I just wanted to show you guys you know, what it should not look like. So now we're gonna go in and do the last finger. So as you can see, when you do the 4-ball method, it's like, you know, like that's what you're working up to, your apex. And it's like once you do your 1st and 2nd bead, by the time that you place your 3rd bead, you already have that apex, and then you just go in and place another one. That way it's like a really nice apex, and your nails are not going to break off. So if you ever see someone's nails and they're super thin, you already know that that's not how they should look. But you'll be surprised. Like I've had clients that go and soak off their, or get the nails soaking off at the shop. That way, you know, it kind of speeds up the process when they're here. Maybe they're in a rush, or usually I tell my clients to let me know if they're getting a soak off ahead of time, and sometimes they forget. So then we have to like reschedule or something so we can have enough time for that soak off. So they go somewhere else, and then they'll be like, the nail tech, or, you know, the people in the shop would tell them like, your nails are too thick, or, you know, whatever. But really, if we're being honest, you know, like this is how your nails should look. The way they do them is super thin, and that's why their nails break off super easily. But, you know, everybody has their own way of doing nails, you know, but this to me, you know, is the correct way, you know, if you don't want your nails to break off like the next day. See, with this one, I only did the 3 beads and it already looks good. So I'm just gonna go in and add just a tiny bead closer to the back. Okay, just like that. So that's pretty much it. So again, if you just do the 4-ball method, that's what helps me create that apex. A lot of the time, I know there's people that do a 1-ball method and they have, you know, they still have an apex, but I feel like it's, to me, sometimes it still looks a little bit too thin. But this one is definitely, you know, really good. Well, really all of them except for this one. But yeah, so hopefully this video was helpful to you guys. Next, I am going to go ahead and fix this nail because next I want to show you in a separate video how to file around the cuticle area. So, you know, if your nail is like this, you just want to go in with a bead, place it closer to the back where your apex should be at. And then again, just, you know, brushing it down towards the tip, but keeping most of the product right here at your apex. Alrighty, just like that, and that's how we fix that nail, so, or that problem. So I'm gonna go ahead and clean off my brush and brush cleaner, and then again I am gonna do a separate video on how to actually reshape and file your nails with the e-file. So again, I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys learned how to apply your apex or how to do your apex, you know, what an apex looks like and where it should be placed. So I hope you guys have a nice rest of your day, and I will see you guys next time. And be sure to go check out the next video where I'll show you how to actually file and shape your nails. So I'll see you guys next time.